Welcome, everyone, to episode 30 of the Dual Boot Diaries, the weekly podcast where two longtime Windows users try to learn to use Linux daily. I am one of your hosts, Adam Patrick Murray.
I'm your other host, Will Smith, and we are not experts. But you know who's sitting between us right now?
Who?
An expert.
Yeah, he is. Okay. And who is that?
Hi, I'm Mike Danseglio, and I'm going to talk to.
Do you use Linux?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, you're in the right place then. Good. I'm glad.
Do you also use Windows?
I love Windows.
So he's a dual booter.
Okay.
I am a dual booter.
He boots, and you put dual boot on everything. You've put things on the same SSD, like two OSs on the same SSD, and it's fine.
I grub that stuff up.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
Just out of curiosity, how do you keep Windows from jacking up the boot partition occasionally?
Yeah.
Or do you have two boot partitions?
No, I have one boot partition.
Wow.
Windows plays well with Linux now. Really does.
It's funny. It's weird. It's usually fine for me, and then all of a sudden, just wham, out of nowhere, it'll break. Windows update.
Never had it happen.
Boom. All right. Well, we're here with Mikey, who is a security professional, a certified ethical hacker.
Yep.
But you have a gray hat on, even though you're really a white hat.
Yep.
So you're just changing hats left and right.
I straddled the line, my friend.
All right. All right. We have a list of questions from people in our Discord that we had asked to submit.
Security-related open source Linux questions.
And then we got some of our own questions. We'll sprinkle around in there.
Yeah,
some of them go real deep. Some of them go real shallow. But it's going to be a fun chat, and hopefully you get something security-related out of it. My first one is...
Wait, is this Mikey's second appearance on the podcast?
It is, actually.
Yep.
Now that
He's our first two-time guest.
Yeah, but you weren't on last time.
No.
Yeah, but you're the first two-time guest. Yeah.
Congratulations.
You're
our Bill Murray. No pressure, though.
No pressure at all, no.
Okay, there had to be somebody, and it was you. I appreciate that. I'm going to start it off because you are credited for being one of the people behind BitLocker, the creation of BitLocker.
Yes, sir.
We talked about this on the Full Nerd podcast. You can go hear the discussion and deep dive into it over there. But one of the questions that a lot of people ask, and I want to ask too, is there an equivalent to BitLocker on Linux that you would recommend?
Absolutely. Well, that I'd recommend.
Okay. Well.
Oh wow. Okay. Two-parter.
Yeah. Two-parter. Is there equivalent to BitLocker on Linux?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. And then second question.
What is it?
Oh, yeah.
So I believe the acronym is LVM, and I'm sure chat will correct me if I'm wrong.
There is no chat here.
Okay. Oh wait, there's no chat here. Okay.
But it's not live.
We're not live. Yeah.
I believe it's LVM, but if not, the comments will correct me if I'm wrong.
You mean Logical Volume Manager?
Then maybe it's not.
Okay.
I know that there is a disk encryption thingy in Linux. I can't remember the acronym. What I do remember is that it is super stable. It is considered widely secure while you guys look up the acronym. It's built into Linux distros and has been for quite a while. It's been pen tested and is relatively secure. About as safe as BitLocker, honestly. Which is pretty wild, right?
It's pretty safe.
It is. And I think that the many eyes theory of Linux really applies there is you have so many people providing scrutiny to this encryption technology that it would be relatively hard to sneak in a flaw or an intentional exploit. So yeah, I would say Linux from a disk storage perspective can be about as secure as Windows.
So the two packages that most modern distros, including Ubuntu, Fedora, and Debian, according to linuxsecurity.com, use are dm-crypt, which handles encryption and decryption at the block level, and Lux2, which is very similar to what your acronym
Lux,
starts with an L.
Yep.
Yeah, which manages the passphrases, recovery keys, and all of that kind of stuff. So
Gotcha.
One is doing the encryption, and one's doing like the housekeeping and user interface stuff.
Gotcha. I think Lux was what I was thinking about when I was coming up with that acronym. So thank you for that.
On Cache, when you turn on full disk encryption, the thing it does is tells you to install Lux, and my assumption is that Lux probably has a requirement of installing dm-crypt and all that stuff. So yeah,
absolutely.
Well, so I've installed a lot of distros in my journey. Yeah, and most of the installers have an option to hit the little check mark that says disk encryption. I never check that. Is that a bad thing?
No, it's not. It depends on what you're doing. So encrypting the data on the drive without needing to protect it, without some reason, without data that you want to protect, without it depends on how you're using it. You might just use Linux and keep all of your data in the cloud, or you might remote into stuff and access sensitive data there. So you don't really have anything local that's sensitive. So there's probably really, in those kind of cases, no need to encrypt data locally.
No need to take that performance hit that comes with all that full drive encryption.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. But in general, if you're going to use it as a daily driver and store data locally, access files locally, yeah, it probably can't hurt to actually encrypt.
Okay.
All right. Well, that was one question done.
Wow.
Yeah.
Will, you got one? Do you want to queue up for your own personal ones?
Yeah, I have a list. I have a short list here. Hey, Mikey, is it okay to turn off Secure Boot?
Or keep it off?
Is it okay? Yes, sure.
Okay. What am I opening myself up to by turning off Secure Boot?
So that's an even better question, Will. So what you're opening yourself up to is rootkits and bootkits.
Okay.
So persistent malware that loads before the operating system, that loads at a very, very, very low level, that's relatively difficult to detect when the operating system is running, relatively almost impossible to eradicate in many cases. You're opening yourself up to that kind of deep, deep, deep malware infection if you don't keep Secure Boot on.
Okay.
Hey, does somebody need to have physical access to the device to install those kind of malware?
No, they don't.
Oh,
It's not like the old days where you have to boot off of infected floppy to get the bootable floppy disease.
Exactly. So although it loads at
BFI? Oh man, BFI is the worst.
BFD,
Oh,
bootable
BFD.
floppy disease.
Oh yeah,
BFD.
BFD. That's
the BFI is
worst.
the infection you get
that's a different one.
afterwards.
Okay, that's great.
That did not sound good.
No.
At all.
It's also the British Film Institute, who we love.
Yeah.
No, although that software, that kind of malware, would only load when you're starting up the system initially, you can infect the system while the OS is running. You could download an app that would install that. You could download a driver that would install that. But that software will probably load the next time you start the system. Secure Boot makes sure that the operating system that you're booting is trustworthy and that it takes over security from the firmware and kind of smooths that handoff so that you don't have malware infecting right in the middle. That's the difference.
So I occasionally like to play Battlefield 6 on my desktop PC at home, which has a anti-cheat that requires Secure Boot turned on, which meant in my Linux journey I had to do some real shenanigans. I mean, it wasn't really that much shenanigan. We talked about it on an episode a few months ago, but I had to set up the pipeline that lets you basically auto-sign kernels when you download them or compile them, and when you do the bootloader and the RAM, all that stuff has to be signed appropriately. And like the nice thing about it is once I had it set up and working, then Linux just kind of did Linux stuff and automatically does it anytime it makes any change in that area. So it actually isn't that big of a pain.
No, it's not.
But I was curious what the overhead of like by not doing it on my laptop, am I leaving myself open to stuff? And it sounds like maybe, but probably I'm okay.
Yeah, I think for the kind of malware infections you can get that Secure Boot would defeat, if you're very conscientious about what you download and install, what apps you're running, what drivers you're using, stuff like that, you're going to be fairly resistant against all forms of malware, including rootkits and bootkits that Secure Boot is designed to prevent.
So that's a good segue into L. Ritzdorf's question. L. Ritzdorf asked, hey, should I worry about the .ru or .cn mirrors, for example, for CachyOS?
No.
Why not?
Because
globalization is good and everything's working out really well?
Wait, and mirrors are just another place to download
yes.
mirrors? The distro.
But are they actually mirrors always? How do we know? Man. Who mirrors the mirrors? Who watches the mirrors, man?
Who looks into the mirrors?
Yeah. Is that really me looking back out, or is that just an image of me?
These guys, man.
It's backwards.
Yeah.
That's not really how
Why is it backwards side to side but not up and down? Think about it.
Actually,
there's a really
know.
good physics girl video about that. Yeah. Anyway.
Hello. Hi, I'm Mike.
Hi.
Good to be here.
Are the mirrors in China and Russia cool or not so much?
They're just another place to download software from.
But if I was the Chinese government, I wanted to get control of my computer, wouldn't I inject code in there that's like, hey, this is Will's computer, you should jack it up now?
Well, the Linux folks and really the whole world has already thought of that.
Okay.
And thought, that's probably something we should worry about. So all of that software that you're going to download from those mirrors, wherever they are, I don't care where they are, it's all digitally signed.
Okay.
And it's digitally signed with keys that are installed when you install your distro.
Okay.
So when you install your distro, you get all these keys, and those and Linux, when you're downloading and installing updates, will check every inbound digital file. I was going to say like digital file, but that's kind of a silly way to say it. Every file that comes down, every update that comes down, it's checking to make sure that it's digitally signed and authentic.
Oh.
And so whether that file comes from the US, the EU, Singapore, Malaysia, Antarctica, the moon, doesn't matter, because if it's not digitally signed by a trusted key, it's not going to get installed.
The distro, the updater is going to say, yo, this isn't signed, I'm going to grab it from someplace else.
Yeah,
Yep.
but what if they replace their distro with their own distro and you had no idea they're using, their repository?
What?
What if,
Because imagine
Oh, okay.
if you downloaded a distro, but built into that distro was a nefarious repository.
Oh, absolutely.
And so every time you get an update, you're not actually getting it from the actual source. Man.
Absolutely. If you download Kali,
Why are you laughing?
because you said man at the end, like you're the dude in Lebowski. Man.
Hi, I'm Mike. Good to see you.
I'm sorry, Mike's never going to come back.
I'm never. This is it. You're cut off now.
Sorry.
If you download a distro that's not trustworthy to begin with, that has malicious keys or adversary-owned keys, then everything you download will be potentially risky.
This is why people don't like Fedora, right?
Don't even.
Oh my God.
Well, okay. So
No, we're quick.
Yeah.
But then downloading a distro from a mirror. What if that distro from that mirror is nefarious?
You should always download distros from a reliable source.
Okay.
Whatever it is. If you're downloading Windows, you download it from Microsoft.com. If you're
Is
downloading
that reliable?
yes, but also the distro, the ISOs are usually they give you an SHA hash.
Yeah.
So you look at the hash on the Cache website, which is a known reliable source.
Yep.
And then you download the ISO from whatever mirror it comes from, and then you run. See, I know this. Then you run the hash command on your download client, and it's on Windows or Linux or Mac or whatever. And if the number that it spits out is the same as the number of the website, everything's cool.
I never do that though.
No, nobody does. It's a complete waste of time.
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
Sure you do,
Really?
Mike.
How many?
yeah.
How often are you installing distros?
From scratch, not
Yeah.
as often, but Kali, I use Kali on many machines, virtual, physical, dual boot, grub. Absolutely. I use the heck out of it.
Okay.
Okay, so a follow-up question on L. Ritzdorf's question. What about, like in the Arch world, there's two main repositories. There's like the official Arch one or the official Cache one if you're on Cache or Endeavor or whatever. But then there's also this thing called the Arch user repository, which is like the Wild West, is my understanding. It's just like, if I want to go put something up there, I'm not going to get in the main Arch repo because that's a lot of work and I have to make friends with people and probably exchange digital signatures or something. But if I want to just post something on the AUR, boom, it'll be right up there in like 15 minutes, is my understanding. Is the AUR stuff safe?
Probably less safe than the main distro.
But like on a scale of like floor USB key at DEF CON to downloading from the Microsoft website, where are we on that spectrum?
I found a USB stick at the hotel while I was staying at DEF CON, but I think it was in the casino, so I don't think it was a random bunch of black hooded hacker, mom basement listening kind of people. It's somewhere in between.
Okay.
So where
But on the risky end.
on the risky end, not super risky.
Okay.
Or sorry, I shouldn't say that. Not ultra risky. I'm trying to gauge it. It's an interesting question. How risky is that? So for the
Well, and my question up front always is, why would you want to do that? Why not just use the?
Well, because the software you use is often not in the main repos. Because,
Maybe there's a reason for that.
Well, it's because
he has a point.
Notion is, for example, in the AUR. So it's people who are repackaging like Debian files and stuff like that for Arch. And like the main Arch repo is about open source software. So they don't put closed source stuff that people repackage as Electron apps or something like that. So
Well, why doesn't Notion have an Arch?
because they're not open source. Slack is an open source. Discord's an open source. None of those are in the main repos.
Okay.
Like you like Ubuntu or Debian is the same way. So like the main Debian repos are all open source software, and you have to get into like weird extra repos and stuff like that. You have to add extra repositories to gain access to like different licensed software, basically, or stuff that doesn't fit the main mission.
And that's the point. I think at every repo you adds a little bit of risk or a little bit of concern. But if you feel like, okay, the code in this repo, relatively trustworthy, relatively reliable, whether it's reputation or experimentation or whatever, go for it. If it meets your security requirement, then go for it. But it is definitely more risky, I think, than the core OS repo.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
so yeah, because I feel like a lot of people still have this question about safety. I know I do, but I'm just like, okay, well, whatever. I'm just gonna,
throw the dice, baby.
Yeah, throw the dice kind of thing, and try to make a good judgment. But that's not sometimes you just need to install something, right?
I'm cool with that.
Yeah, but like for me, I guess it's more like if it were to actually happen, say there was something that was nefarious in one of these package managers.
Okay.
What does that process look like? Does the many eyes thing that you talked about? So you're assuming at some point somebody got eyes on something that they think is nefarious.
Yep.
What happens next?
How would you ever know?
Yeah, well, but I'm assuming what if somebody did discover something, then they reach out to the repo, or are they posting this in GitHub, or how does that get flagged, and how long until it gets flagged the first time? Does it actually get taken down?
All of it varies. All of that varies. There are some repos that are very actively managed, where repo owners are very engaged and present, and they would very likely, as soon as they got notified, they would start taking things down. They would start either suspending downloads or actively removing stuff. Other repos are kind of abandoned or semi-abandoned, where there's very little upkeep, there's very little maintenance and observation. Those, you could have something in the repo for weeks, months, years at a time that's malicious or nefarious, and nobody knows. Or sorry, people know, but there's nothing done about it. So the more active, the more well-managed repos, the ones more frequent check-ins, more active and energetic, I would say those are more trustworthy because they'll get corrected much quicker.
One thing I do like about the AUR that Will has shown me is that people can leave comments, right?
There's comments and there's like download ratings and stuff like that. So you get a sense of what's popular and what is not, which is like...
Or how many eyes are on it, really.
Yeah, as we all know, the more popular stuff is always better than the less popular stuff. That's just the way things work.
Yep.
But like you do get a sense of like a one star on the AUR is a little scarier than something that's been downloaded 30,000 times.
Absolutely.
And how do you submit that? Like how do you star something?
Well, I don't know.
You've never done it?
No, I don't star stuff.
Okay.
I'm a like guy. I don't like stars. Hearts only, baby.
There you go. Okay. But say you did come across something and you're like, oh, this is junk. How do you know how to do that?
I do paru -s -r and then uninstall it. No, I've never tried to rate something.
Yeah.
I've left a comment before.
Yeah.
Just thumbs up emoji. I was like, this is a good app.
Great.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. As a security professional, are you actually trying to find things actively or no?
No, that's not my role. That's not my forte. I'm not that great at that. There are many other people, bug bounty hunters or active open source enthusiasts that go looking for that and report it. There is a large community for that. It's just not what I do.
Right?
Okay.
Like that's a business. Like that's an outright job where you go out and you hunt for bug bounties and you get paid and stuff like that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how common is that? How many people are doing that job?
Go to DEF CON. You'll run into a lot of them.
Okay.
Hardcore nerds. They speak in zeros and ones usually, and when they open their mouth, it's like listening to a modem.
Okay, maybe I should.
But they're extremely good at doing what they do. Extremely good.
So just for reference, I'm on the Arch user repository since I picked on Notion before. There's like 15 different Notion ones, but this one has 28 votes, and a popularity of 1.69. I don't have any idea what that means, but there's a lot of comments and people say, hey, this isn't working. And then the person responds usually like 2 days later and they fix it. So
cool.
Like it's actively maintained. You can go to typically for AUR stuff, You can go to the GitHub page for it too. They list the GitHub as well, so you can see the actual, see what they've taken out of the other distros packages and how they've repackaged them for Arch,
Nice.
which is nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, piggybacking off that, there is a question from Deutus, friend of the show and also Deezer CEO. Unverified software, Flatpaks, and the like, I don't trust them. Should I? Which ones and why? We can take these for...
Well, that's kind of a similar conversation, right?
Exactly.
Is software from any source. And I think, is it Deutus?
Datus. Yeah.
Datus. Yeah. I think Datus, that the best guidance I can give you there is assume everything that you download from the internet can be active code, and assume that any of that active code could be theoretically malicious. So base your decisions of trust on where it comes from. What importance does it have? Is this just like a whim of an app or an update that you feel like screwing around with, versus is this mission critical? All of that stuff should balance in your mind when you decide whether to install it or not. But just because something is a driver doesn't mean it's innocent. Just because it's a Flatpak doesn't mean it's innocent. Malware can live in virtually everything. Malware can live and a lot of people don't even know this, malware can live in fonts. Fonts run code. When you type a letter in a font, what is it doing? It's running code.
I mean, look, when you download a web page, you're running arbitrary code on your computer that some website server fed you,
Yep.
right?
It could be anything.
I see code.
You do.
Ones and zeros,
Yeah.
Adam.
So
Yes,
Adam is running
more
the
than
Matrix screensaver, and you can't see that.
I know. I knew exactly what he was
you
doing.
knew he was good.
He
That's my
didn't say
favorite
blonde, brunette, redhead. So Spectre prompted a question that I mentioned last week.
Actually, real quick. Sorry. I something else along these lines. I've been downloading stuff off of GitHub. How safe is GitHub? Because GitHub's owned by Microsoft. You would think they would do some sort of checks for what people are uploading there. No.
I mean, Microsoft can't. It's not that they're jerks or they're
sure about
ignorant. They're not. They just can't. They can't scale up to looking at every bit of code in every repo and compiling it, potentially running it in a set. They can't possibly. They flag the more evident, obvious things, and they'll remove stuff that is just blatantly malicious that they're made aware of is typically blatantly malicious. But they're not protecting you.
Well, and if they moderate everything, they lose Section 230 safe harbor or whatever, right? So they're not going to do that.
Okay, because I feel like the most scariest stuff that I've been looking at, and I'm like, this isn't packaged in a repo. This is just some dude's GitHub account, and I'm downloading it and installing it like that.
Yep.
That seems the most
Be worried
vulnerable.
about that a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Be a little concerned.
I mean, but also, again, it depends on whether you trust the project in general, right? So, like, if you're downloading something sketchy from my GitHub, that's a bad choice, right? But if you're downloading something sketchy from like the FFmpeg GitHub, probably okay, right? Like, I tend to trust the FFmpeg because those people have been doing this for a long time and they know what they're doing. It's just like dating.
It's a bigger project too.
Do you swipe right on the guy that looks like he's got an AI avatar, or no? I don't know. I don't know what dating. I don't know how dating works. I've been married for a long time.
I don't know how dating works.
You're talking to the wrong people here.
You're definitely talking to the wrong people.
All right, sorry.
No, you're fine. So Spectre reminded me of a question I had last week, which I did write down and put at the bottom of the notes. But we'll shout out to Spectre. They wanted me to ask if it's safe to post logs, or you have to worry about accidentally leaking PII or security stuff or things that you maybe don't want on the broad internet. So, like, if you run journal control and go back, you have a crash, you want to find out what the thing is, you have a problem with a specific module or something like that, you track down the place that you need to submit the log to. Is it safe to submit the log, or do you have to scan through the whole thing and look for PII before you post it?
The second one.
The second one.
So logs, and this is any operating system, Linux, Unix, Windows, Android, doesn't really matter. Log files can and oftentimes do contain private data, specifically, very, very sensitive data potentially. Like if there's an error with a file read and you're reporting that, and the log file might actually contain the contents of the file.
Or a big chunk of it or something, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would never personally upload unedited or unreviewed chunks of log. Like I would just never upload the log file. I would look through it and say what's relevant, what's important to report this, and then of that, is that sensitive data in there? Is that, because it might even be as innocent as there's a file read error and there's a path in the log for the file read, and that path might contain things like C, users, mic, and then after that it might be super secret project number 1, and then /research /human sacrifice.jpg, and there's an error reading that file. Well, maybe I don't want that path up. Don't judge me. Maybe I don't want that path uploaded. And that could be the same like for almost any app.
Like if you're going to C/Adam/user/Adam/evidence of my crime number 1, crime number 2, crime number 3, you don't want that on the internet.
Right, exactly. Adam doesn't, at least.
Yeah. I'm fine with it either way.
Yeah.
This is how you get it. This is how you advance the full nerd.
I mean, but that's not, that's an obvious thing to see.
Yep.
But like, what if you don't know what's relevant? Like if you're trying to upload and you're like, man, I've got this crash, and I want to upload stuff, and I don't know what's relevant. Like maybe you can take some
upload a
out.
dump.
So like a blob or a dump, unless it's a system that has literally no sensitive data on it, nothing that I would worry about. If I thought to myself, on this system that I've got this crash on, I don't care if somebody sees the entire snapshot of the volume, then sure, go for it. Absolutely go for it. Okay. Otherwise, no.
Scan it.
Yeah, scan it.
Give it a look. Are there tools that help you with that stuff, or do you think that's something you have to put a human? You can jump into ChatGPT and be like, "Hey, ChatGPT, is this safe for me to post?
Hey, is this log safe?"
Yeah. Hey, Copilot.
You had to go there. You had to go one step further than ChatGPT.
Look, I'm just trying to make you feel bad, Mikey. I'm
Thanks
sorry.
so much. You're cringing the heck out of me.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, you have to look through it by hand. I mean, just open it in your favorite raw text editor, because that's what log files look great in. And look through it. Just snip it. Usually there's a chunk of it that you can extract that will represent the error you're trying to log or trying to report without sensitive data.
What's the best raw text editor, and why is it not VI?
Wow.
What, you're not a fan of Emacs?
No, I'm not an Emacs guy. I use Nano.
Well, you have the beard for Emacs.
I mean, look, you can look the look and walk the walk, and maybe you can't talk the talk. I don't know.
All right, we've got a very pointed one from friend of the show, Pyrocumulus. How should a user choose a FIDO2 hardware key?
Ooh, that is a good question.
That's easy. Am I okay to name brands?
Yeah.
On this? So the way you choose a good FIDO2 key is you buy a Yubico.
Is that a brand?
It's funny. I was at the thing the other day, and they were just handing them out. I just took one from them.
They're good.
Yeah.
They're really good. They are, I think, my favorite brand, really the only brand that I consider reliable and useful. They have a really, really long and I don't work for them. I don't have a referral link. I don't get a kickback. I'm not sponsored or endorsed.
So,
they have referral links. Yubico makes great product. It's very cheap for what you get. They have a really good track record. I've interacted with a number of their engineers over the years, and their engineers talk the talk. They are really solid on the security security side of things. I spent at least a half hour at an RSA conference several years back talking to one of the Yubico engineers about random number generation and how they do random number generation. And that's not something you get in all developers. That's not something you get from all of these.
No, you just call random and let the computer figure it out.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
No, this guy was like, let's talk about seeds.
Yeah.
Let's talk about entropy sources. I mean, he was into it.
And the nice thing about them is they have a wide enough range of hardware that you can get something that, like, I have 2 or 3 that I use for different things.
Cool.
One is has NFC on it, so you can tap it on the back of your phone.
Perfect.
They have USB-C, USB-A, all sorts of different stuff, and they're kind of indestructible.
Yeah, they're pretty solid, right?
Yeah. Like I don't put them on my keychain because I don't actually need to use them to log in that often. Mm-hmm. They're more like the fail-safe fallback logins,
right?
But they are robust enough that I would put the larger ones on my keychain probably without thinking about it.
Cool.
Yeah. Can we take a step back? What would you use this for? I actually don't know.
So basically, what a FIDO2 key is it's a safe place to put keys. Like
BitLocker keys?
Not BitLocker keys, like login keys.
It's like hardware 2-factor.
Oh,
So instead of having, the idea is
Authy.
you have something you know and something you bring, and this is something you bring. It can also be something you know in some cases. Because like Microsoft will let you log in with these without anything else.
is this like a physical passkey?
Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
So you could use this instead of a passkey.
100%.
Oh, okay.
You
Oh,
can
why don't more people use this?
Because they forget it at home.
Costs $50.
Cheaper.
Cheaper now.
Yeah.
I think I got a
Now
2-pack
they're-
for $50 when I bought the
Oh,
first
okay.
ones.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah.
They're usually $20-25 a pop,
Yeah,
depending on the feature.
The NFC ones were a little bit more expensive, if I recall, but like worth it because then you can two-factor in with your phone.
Yep.
So a lot of my two-factor is with Authy, like Authy codes. How hard would it be to transfer and be like, hey, you know what? Actually, use this as a two-factor then instead of the Authy code.
I don't know much about Authy codes. I know that this generally the keys that you provision in there, like the authentication you use with a FIDO key, stays on the FIDO key. Like that's one of the big features is it's tamper resistant. Like
if somebody had access to the FIDO key, they couldn't.
They can't get
Take
to
the data
the
off.
information without destroying the key, probably.
Right.
Oh, okay.
But, I mean, nation states probably can, but
Possibly.
maybe not. We don't know.
right, probably not. But I mean, that's part of the engineering is to prevent that.
Yeah.
So, but we don't know.
So Adam, a few years ago, I talked about this on a Tech Pod years ago, so I'll talk about it here again. But I had someone trying to impersonate me to get my Twitter handle. And they were going through a series of attacks, starting with like weak spots where my email address was attached to an account, so they could get the last 4 digits of a credit card, so they could then call Amazon, so they could then chain all the way back
Chain
through
it
my
up.
life into getting information to get Twitter to hand me their account and hand them my account. And the solution, when I talked to people who I didn't know you at the time, but when I talked to people who in my life who had dealt with this before, was set up a one of the Google Advanced Protection accounts, which requires a hardware FIDO key to sign in or out of. I think now you can use passkeys as well.
Yep.
But back then it was you had to have a couple of hardware keys to sign up. And basically it gives you a super lockdown Google account, then like hook all of your stuff up to that. And then there's no way for somebody to recover that account or get that account out from under you.
Yep.
So then there's nowhere for them to go, even if they get into, say, your Amazon account or your whatever. And it was incredibly good. Anybody who has even the slightest visible online presence, I would encourage to do this.
Did it cost money to get that account?
No, it's free. They offer it they started it because of they had politicians that were being attacked and reporters who were being attacked by nation states.
Oh.
And they did the hardware side because with the hardware key, they knew that they could you had to have the hardware key to log in and attach an account. And last time I checked, they still had a 100% success rate as far as they knew on those accounts with the
Nice.
hardware keys attached.
I didn't know that.
So they also recommended if you're the IT lead for an org and you put the account that owns all of the IT ownership for like your domains and your business stuff and your bank accounts and all that on one of those accounts now is the kind of a recommendation as well. So
Nice. And you protect it with a FIDO key.
yeah. Then if you lose the FIDO key, you're hosed, but that's
Yeah.
a whole other problem.
Absolutely.
That's why you get 2.
What if you found one of these on the ground?
Just plug it in. It's fine.
Okay,
yeah, just
perfect.
jam it into the nearest USB port.
Great. Love it.
Use Mikey's computer though. He's a security expert.
Yeah. He'll know what happened. You got a question, Will?
Yeah, I can do another
Do
one.
it.
This is a Wi-Fi question. I wasn't expecting this.
Yay. I like Wi-Fi.
Pyrocumulus says, for a home wireless LAN environment where WPA 2/3 enterprise wireless security isn't practical due to the devices that need to be supported, is WPA 2 still sufficient? Or is upgrading access points to WPA 3 compatible ones advisable?
So, good question. And the answer is no, you don't really need to upgrade to WPA 3 right now. WPA 2 uses reasonably good cryptography, strong enough cryptography. WPA 2 is crackable, but in the same way WPA 3 is crackable, which in simple terms is not very easily.
So what is the process? You have to sit and sniff a bazillion packets and then look for commonalities or something like it was with WEP back in the day?
So it's the way you do it is, in short, you to crack WPA 2 or 3, same way, you use something to sniff network traffic. You wait for the authentication handshake. You capture the authentication handshake, and then you brute force the authentication handshake. And the way you brute force it is you attempt every possible password until one works. No, that's serious. Brute forcing. Now, typically the way this happens is you use what we call a word list. So you get a list of possible passwords for Wi-Fi, WPA2, WPA3. A WPA2 or 3 password can be between 8 and 63 characters.
Okay.
And
password's always at the top of the list.
Yeah, of course, password or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, something like that. But it takes time. Brute forcing that many possible combinations takes an exorbitantly long time.
Do they do this against the actual Wi-Fi access point, or are they just doing it against the ACK packets that they sniffed? Okay.
It's just against the packet they sniffed.
Is this like take a couple of 5090s and a big giant SSD you want to burn through and just hammer it at it for a couple of days?
Funny you say that.
Weird.
So I did some research and a little experimentation back in the day, around 2018, 19. I did a capture like this. I set up my machine. I had a 1080 GPU, Founders Edition. Yay.
Ooh,
and I had an i7, it was a 4000 series.
Okay.
4070K maybe? 4770K, I mean.
They'll know I won't. And a reasonable amount of RAM. And I brute force cracked against this password, or this Wi-Fi password, with a word list, and I believe it was a 2.3 billion password list, like possible word list. So 2.3 billion attempts to brute force this. I did it first with the CPU only.
Okay.
And with the CPU only, I left the machine running, and it cracked. And it took 8.5 days to go through that many words in the word list.
That's less bad than I would expect.
Yeah,
It's a 4-core 8-thread CPU probably.
4-core 8-thread, there you go. Yeah. And then I took that same password, I cleaned everything up, and I took that same password list, the same capture, and used the 1080. I told it to use the GPU.
Mm-hmm.
You want to take a look?
Did you have a 1080 or 1080 Ti?
1080.
Okay.
So it probably took about 9 hours, 10 hours.
Adam, you want to?
You told me, sorry.
Oh, I did?
Yeah.
Okay. 26 minutes.
Jesus, really?
Yeah. 26 minutes. I timed it. And then I did it all again because they didn't believe my results, and I wanted to make sure. And I did, and it was the same results. 8.5 days, 26 minutes.
So what you're saying is GTX 1080 GOAT.
Hell yes.
that means a 5090 would do it in about 32 seconds, probably.
Before we're done with the
nanoseconds,
probably.
Yeah.
I mean, the restriction, the constraint wound up being bus.
Disk IO,
Yeah, disk
right?
exactly.
Okay, real quick. But you said it's safe, and then you said it's that easy to crack.
Yeah, 26 seconds.
Yeah.
It's not easy to crack because 2.3 billion words or possible attempts is nothing compared to the number of possible passwords.
Oh,
so
okay.
what you're saying is I need to make sure that my password for my Wi-Fi is not in that 2.3 billion list that you're using.
What you need to do, if you're using WPA2 or anything like that, you don't have to worry about like certificates or management type of
802.53 or whatever that is.
Yeah, you don't need to do 802.1x, I think. What you need to do is you need a reasonably long password, like a passphrase, like 20, 30,
like this
40
is my
characters.
very good password.
Yeah, this is my very good password.
Or Mike Danseglio sucks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I am Adam's cat and I love my belly petting. That something silly
It's not
like
even
that
really a sentence.
is so incredibly long and complex that it's almost impossible that someone's ever going to crack it in any reasonable way. You do that, you turn off WEP, you turn off WPS, you turn off all the features that you don't need on Wi-Fi, and you, for God's sake, disable guest access. Don't have a guest Wi-Fi network. That's really bad because access to that oftentimes leads into access to secured network.
What if you have a guest Wi-Fi access network that's protected with a password, WPA2, that you only flip on and off when you have guests over, and you're like, hey, here's your password. This is the fake network.
Do you trust them?
Yeah.
Do you
If I have
trust
somebody
your
in my
guests?
house, I'm not gonna not let somebody use my Wi-Fi if I invite them into my home.
Then why are
What am
you
I, some
restricting them to part of your network?
Because I have stuff on the other part of the network I don't want them to see.
So you don't trust them.
I trust them a little bit.
Take your guests to McDonald's. They have free Wi-Fi.
Would you let Adam on your network?
I have.
Wow, really?
That's
Yeah.
where we recorded
Adam, would
the
you
last.
let Mike on your network?
I guess we'll see.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, you
absolutely
wouldn't.
not.
Actually, you don't know what my password is.
He's into all sorts of bad business.
I've used the same password for like 20 years.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Easy.
I once a friend of mine once asked me to set up his Wi-Fi because he couldn't figure out how to follow the 2 pages of instructions, and I was like, "Sure, I'll do it." And then I named his Wi-Fi network Scrotum, which that was 20 years ago. And I went to his house about 6 months ago, and I was like, "Hey, what's your Wi-Fi password?" He's like, "You've got it. You've got the username. You've got the SSID and the password still." And I was like,
Oh God.
"Oh man, it's been Scrotum for 20
That's
years."
evil. That's pure
Yeah,
evil,
I
man.
felt a little bit bad.
Nobody's going to be able to guess that one. Like,
Yeah.
No, nobody would think to use that one. So.
No, the SSID is Scrotum. It's broadcast.
The name, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
The password's much worse.
I thought, okay. Okay. Well, you said WPA2 is going to be fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where is the point where it's not going to be fine anymore?
We don't know. I don't see any breach of WPA2 or any weakness that would make WPA3 compelling. If you were setting up a new network, you might as well use the strongest thing. But there's no security weakness that would compel me to go, let's drop everything. I think the question was, do I need to worry about getting WPA3 deployed?
Well, I think it's more that they have hardware.
Yeah, there's a hardware
yeah.
requirement for WPA 2 to 3, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they only have older hardware that supports WPA2.
Use WPA2.
But also the other part of this question is in a home environment, you often have older devices that don't work with WPA. For example, if you have a Nintendo Switch that's on the Wi-Fi in your house, it doesn't work with WPA 3, but it will work with WPA 2.
Right.
So you're in a situation where you have to keep WPA 2 around or else your kid's going to be sad they can't play Mario Kart.
Wasn't it PlayStation that supported WEP only?
No, that was a Nintendo choice. That was
it
the
Nintendo?
3DS or something, only supported WEP.
I'm seeing a pattern with the Nintendo product.
Look. So I'll go ahead and say Sony, after they got hacked to the point that they had to turn PlayStation Online off for 3 months to fix it, Sony's been pretty good about this stuff since then. But Nintendo does better these days than they used to.
There's not much,
Okay.
not much
Put it
to
that
hack
way.
there.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get to a question from FG.
Oh, wait, one more. Hold
What?
on. One more Wi-Fi point.
Okay.
Interesting tidbit. You can, two-part tidbit. You can use an emoji in your SSID name, in your network name, in your Wi-Fi network name. You can absolutely use an emoji. It's a legal use of an emoji. And using an emoji in your Wi-Fi network name almost invariably breaks all of the hacking tools. They just don't support an emoji in the network
It
name.
also breaks a lot of clients for what it's worth.
Well, screw them.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Debian users.
Really?
I didn't know.
Oh, I was like,
know.
what?
Too
What?
I don't know. I do know one of the questions we had on the Tech Pod years and years ago was, hey, I realized I can put the emoji in my SSID. Is this going to break anything wrong? I have no idea. I've never tried that before. And then 2 months later, it was like, oh yeah, I had these 8 things that wouldn't connect at all.
Oh, wow.
Because there was no way to input the emoji on the devices often for embedded devices. So music, like Sonos or stuff like that wouldn't
Interesting.
connect to
Okay.
Wi-Fi with the anyway. Yeah.
So test it before you do it.
Test it.
Yeah.
But that does make it a lot less breakable.
Honestly, the hard problem with Wi-Fi for me is that the cost of changing the SSID and the password is so high at this point because there's so many devices, and it's not like the stuff that you think about like your phone and your laptop. It's the things like light bulbs and weird picture frames and all the stuff that you completely forget that you have on the Wi-Fi. That my Wi-Fi password is never going to change at this point again.
I hear you.
Yeah,
Hope you picked a good one
yeah, it's fantastic.
and not Scrotum.
No,
Yeah,
that's SSID.
it's fantastic.
Yeah,
And
it's fantastic.
Yeah, that works,
Yeah,
actually.
pretty long.
Okay.
You got another question?
Yeah, from
Matt?
FGTFV567.
I'm calling you 7.
I currently run a next generation.
6, 7.
6, no.
I currently run a next generation firewall, Zen Armor, on my OpenSense router. Do you think they're effective? Do you think they'll become more necessary into the future? Most importantly, should I pay the extra $5 a month for the extra protective features?
So, from what I know, I don't run Zen Armor, but yes, I mean it's got a lot of really fancy advanced feature like TLS breakdown, app inspection. I think like Active Directory integration, so you know who is using what. on your network, and that's kind of cool. It's very enterprisey, to be honest. So for a home use or a small business, it might be a little overkill. But if it works for you, if it meets your needs, awesome. I don't know what the extra $5 a month buys you. Most likely what it buys you is very up-to-date signatures for current malware trends, current malicious packets, things like that. That's usually what subscription products do for that. And I think that's usually worth it because that keeps you protected against very, very, very current malicious patterns like network attacks, worms, things like that might not get detected by traditional signatures or traditional detection mechanisms. So probably if you're going through the effort of getting that set up, it's probably worth it to spend the $5 a month. You get a lot of extra security, but your mileage will vary. If you're doing a lot of benign, basic things on your network and you're not worried about advanced persistent threats, might not be worth it.
Also, they don't say specifically, but it sounds like home use.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, I had implied
or no?
home use here, I thought.
No.
That's pretty hardcore protection for a home. I think you're pretty safe.
I don't know.
I mean, it's my assumption when somebody tells me they're doing something like that is that they either are working in this space and want someplace that they can experiment and learn, or they're aspirationally working toward getting into the space, or they're just, maybe rightly or wrongly paranoid.
Yeah.
Or just heavy-duty user, likes that complexity, that challenge.
Yeah.
And that's cool, too. I respect all of that.
What do you think about rolling your own router these days? Is that a good idea or a bad idea? In a world where you can't buy routers anymore in the United States.
Here we go.
How does this answer change?
Here we go. I don't know. I don't like building my own router. I don't like building my own network equipment if I can help it.
But you're running pfSense at home, right?
I bought one.
Oh, you bought a box.
Yep.
Shipping with pfSense on it?
Yep.
Okay.
I did. And not that I couldn't have built it, but it's a very complex procedure. And so much of my work depends on networking and having that stable and secure, properly done. There's some things I just don't trust to do myself.
There's kind of been a rising movement in the enthusiast community, especially in the Homelab folk, to go buy relatively inexpensive, like all-in-one fanless computers from like AliExpress out of Shenzhen, basically.
Okay.
And then put OpenSense or pfSense on them and use that as your router. Because
I can see that. There's
a lot of stuff, like especially like I'm in a weird situation. This I'm a potential person who could do this because I have an AT&T fiber connection, and AT&T requires that you use their router, and the AT&T router really, really stinks. So one of the ways that you can bypass that is by you can't take the AT&T router off the network because if it doesn't get the little ACK signal every once in a while, then AT&T just cuts off your internet. So what you do is you set up a real router in front of it, pass through and tell that real router to just pass through the acknowledgement packets to the AT&T router, which you leave plugged in inside, and then you run the rest of your network through the thing normally. And like it's a huge pain in the butt, But then I could have stateful port forwarding or regular port forwarding and do things like reverse DNS lookup on my own, be able to set my DNS server manually inside the network, which it doesn't let me do out of the box.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So anyway, it's probably fine, but you have to be a nerd.
You have to be nerd.
Okay.
I agree with that.
We don't got time for that. Friend of the show, Spectre, has some rapid fire questions real quick.
Rapid fire.
Oh, is this the closing barrage?
No.
Okay.
Is there a VPN service that you trust that integrates easily with Linux?
I like Nord.
Okay, easy. What browser / configuration, for example, uBlock Origin or similar, do you suggest for best privacy?
I'll just tell you what I use. I use Chrome with Privacy Badger and AdBlock, and I find that sufficient.
What do you think about the new, all the kind of weird forks of browsers? Like we're seeing Zen and Brave and all these different forks of existing big browser projects in many cases.
I get worried about, I do so much in my browser and there's so much sensitive data going through that browser. I get worried about having a browser from anyone that I don't completely trust, almost as much as the OS. So I would probably, just as for me, I would only use Firefox or Chrome or Edge?
No Safari.
Oh, God. You calling Safari a browser? Now we're getting real bold here.
Look. I'm just putting it out there, okay?
What did a Genius Bar person tell you
What
to
are
do
you,
that?
Opera? Are you an Opera guy? Do you Opera, bro?
Netscape Navigator.
Yeah.
Netscape Mosaic, baby.
Okay.
Links.
Any suggestions to de-Google/de-Big Tech your life?
No, I that's not the space I live in. I don't do that.
Okay.
Just, personal.
Sorry, I don't.
He's in Big Google's pocket, is what
Yeah,
I'm hearing.
love it. You trust him implicitly.
Not exactly.
Okay.
I got another one.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Do you know what Blue Bubbles is, Mikey?
This sounds very Rule 34, but I don't know what
It's not
that
a
is.
weird fetish thing. So, for folks who use Apple devices, like iOS devices,
Okay.
there's this thing called iMessage.
Okay.
And there's a lot of friction between iMessage and other text message users in the world.
Of course.
The iMessage users are blue. They get blue bubbles. Everybody else gets crappy green bubbles like Adam and maybe
And
you.
me,
Yeah,
probably.
I guess you're an Android guy.
I'm an Android
I
guy.
assumed. I should have known. You get the beard is the
I
giveaway.
can run
it turns
terminal
out.
on my phone.
No,
Can you?
Yeah, I have a thing called Prompt. I can SSH into whatever I want. It's no problem.
Okay, that's not so bad.
So the point is,
Yes.
Blue Bubbles is a thing that hacks into the Mac at a really low level to give you, and then forwards your iMessages across the network so that you can get iMessages on your Linux computer like I have right now.
This seems fine.
Perfect. Good. No further questions.
I
Your
don't
Honor.
see any dumpsters with fire coming out of them.
Look,
No.
Real quick. So he went to Luis, our facilities manager, was like, "Hey, do we have any old iMacs that we're e-wasting?"
Mac Minis.
Mac Minis that we're e-wasting.
I'm a crazy person.
And he's like, yeah, we got some really old Intel-based
Yeah.
stuff. So yeah, he sat there in our lab setting up this whole system, and he's like, I think it'll be fine.
It's fantastic. I can text my wife from my computer. I've been doing that since I moved off a Mac 11 years ago.
You can't text somebody
You can't-
from your browser?
Not using their protocol.
No, you can't use you can't even text message people. Like it's all locked out. You're locked out. I could get another phone number and hook it up to my laptop, I guess, like a weirdo. I know this is a weird idea, but
Yeah.
it's all closed. If I'm on a Mac,
Messages.android.com.
if I'm on a Mac, I can open the iMessage app on my Mac and it just works. If I'm on a Windows PC or a Linux PC, Steve Jobs gives you the finger from beyond the grave.
Maybe you should kick Steve Jobs to the curb, my friend.
Well,
That's
Maybe
the
it's
real
time.
answer.
that's a team conversation. And I'm going to go and tell you, I'm kind of ambivalent at this point, but my wife and daughter, much less so. Yeah.
Fair enough.
So this is one of those things that I never, 20 years ago, if you'd said, hey, Will, the phone that you get, you're going to have a conversation with everybody that's involved in your family before you change anything, I would have been like, no, that's stupid. Why would that ever happen? And then we made, text message a proprietary thing and also the centerpiece of all of our lives. So
Thanks, Steve.
Blue Bubbles is great.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah. This is where I usually play Gordon saying Steve Jobs is the devil.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I have a real good one that a lot of people have been talking about recently, and Spectre put in here.
Spectre?
I don't know if Mike has any insights on the short-sighted California and Colorado laws about OSs needing to implement age verification.
I know where this is going.
Especially as this pertains to Linux. And then somebody else follows up down here, Deotis, as age verification for OSs coming to all distributions with corporate sponsorship /backers/association. Does that impact downstream distros? Do we all go Arch?
Hell yeah.
There's a lot of talk recently about age verification. This seems like a security nightmare. Is there a way to actually do this in any appreciable way? Should we be doing this? What do you think?
But think of the children.
Yeah, I know, right? Think
Hold
of
on.
the children.
Now you have to say that and explain why this doesn't actually protect children.
Do I have to explain why it doesn't protect
I think
children?
it's important.
I think some
do
people
that.
don't know.
Yeah.
So, age verification, the concept, if you're not familiar, is that there are a lot of government around the world, actually, not just in the U.S., that are saying, hey, we want, or we're going to require tech companies to require age verification when an app is used, or when an operating system is installed, or when an account is created. You got to verify your age so we can protect children from adults, or we can protect children from content. We can protect children from things, and we can allow adults to do whatever they're going to do, but only with other adults. And there's a variety of different justifications for it. Go ahead.
I mean, protecting children is a good thing.
Yeah, I'm definitely not saying that.
Yeah.
Protecting children is important. It's critical, but the problem is this doesn't really protect children. This is a technology solution to a non-technology. It's not the right solution. A technology solution is not the rightest solution to this kind of challenge.
Like the first time this happened was when a bunch of legislators were shown pornography on the internet for the first time, piquing their interest. And they were like, wait, there's nothing here that says you have to be 18 to go past this, because you have to be. So then they added a bunch of buttons at the front of all the porn sites to say, hey, are you 18?
Yes.
And the kids just say yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is the solution to that problem, right?
Right.
No.
So now we have online. Well, so I thought you were going to go with. So then the next evolution was you get adult sites that put up a front end that says, hey, you have to verify that you're at least 18 to look at this content. And then click here to contact a third-party age verification provider, and you'll provide verification to them.
Yeah.
And so they do that. So people click that button and they upload a picture of their driver's license, or they upload a 5-second video of themselves. And there's a number of different security risks there. First of all, it's not really meeting the purpose because they're typically very easy to deceive. As I recall, wasn't the very first one that was implemented in the UK, you could just upload a picture of, was it Norman Reedus? From Distro, yeah, and that would meet their requirements. And now suddenly you're an adult, even though you're a video game character, and that worked. So then government said, no, well, we've got to have it instead of just like a web service, we've got to have it as an operating system front end. So when you install an OS, you'll prove. Let me backtrack. Even more concerning was that video of you as Norman Reedus, or that picture of your driver's license or passport that you upload, you don't know where the hell that's going. It's a third-party provider.
When your driver's license and passport have a ton of PII that you don't want just floating around the web.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And these third-party providers are not oftentimes bound by the same rules and regulations that the front-end provider is. So if it's a Microsoft, let's say it's I'll just use the name of adultsite.com, whatever the heck it is. I hope that's not really a site, but adultsite.com.
What it's all about.
Adultsite.com is using some XYZ backend or third-party provider, and that content is going to them, and they're not contractually bound to protect your PII. So they get breached. They get compromised. They leak their data. They sell their data. And I can't believe that he's going and registering that domain.
I can get adultsite.online for $3.
I'm having to bleep every single one of these, so don't stop it.
Why are you registering that domain? We're in the middle of a podcast. Look, can't you wait like 5 minutes?
This is the best time to register domains. This is the middle of the podcast. I've gotten this is the birth of Content Town. Anyway.
So now, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So now the governments are legislating, hey, move it to the front end. You have to be 18 and you have to prove it to install an OS. Things like that. And at least one OS, I believe it's Graphene, is now saying, you know what? If that's what you require, we're not going to provide our OS in your country.
Yeah.
I mean, there's actually a couple of them that came out around this news too. But,
my assumption is that this is going to end with a bunch of buttons on Linux distro and Windows, and Microsoft and Apple will deal with it, right? Because they're making money and want to continue making money on the 9th largest economy in the world.
Yep.
But my assumption is that like the Linux distros will just put "not for use in California" on the bottom of their download pages.
Exactly.
Call it a day.
Or Brazil. I think Brazil has got some very strict laws. But think about it from the operational, like the IT perspective. You manage 10,000 Windows desktops at some company.
Well,
are you going to walk to every Windows desktop when you're installing it and prove your personal identity? Provide your driver's license? No, of course that doesn't make sense, does it?
But you just do it on the Active Directory once with their HR stuff, and then you're good to go. You put your ID's already there. You've already given your employer your passport, your social security card.
You're not going to tie your personal identity to your corporate deployment.
Why not? That's the future. That's PeopleSoft, baby.
That's not what's going to happen.
That's not how it works? Okay.
Corporate identity will be tied to your corporate deployment.
Yeah, but you're not going to employ people who are under 18, so it's fine.
That's right. People under 18 can't have
They
jobs.
can't have
now.
jobs, except for in Nebraska and a couple other places where it's totally down with child. Anyway, hi.
So it's
This is a Linux
it's technical
podcast.
challenge.
Yeah. But also the OS requirement was just that the user account have the age in it. They weren't doing any verification. Like there's no mandation.
So you have to type your age.
You just type your age.
99.
I mean, it's kind of like the Steam
It's like
store.
Steam thought I was born in 1900.
Yeah, Steam's always like, hey, put it. This is rated mature. You got to put your age in. It's like whatever.
Yeah, I put
January
2022 in the other day by accident. It was like, no, can't. That's not a real date.
And then you
can't be
changed
born.
it.
So I changed it to
And
like,
it's like, okay, now you're
1922, and it's like you're good to go. Let it rip.
So I guess, is this really going to be a thing? Do you think we're actually going to have to worry about this?
I don't know. I can't predict the future. Gordon used to call me out on predicting the future every once in a while. And so I'm a little hesitant about that. I think governments will create laws and guidelines and well-intentioned laws, well-intentioned attempts to protect people. And I get that. But I think that some of this stuff without the technical input is just going to be doomed. So there'll be a circumvention. There'll be a way around it, like your UBI, Shift F10 or whatever it is in Windows setup. There'll be a way around all of this. There has to be for corporate deployment. Think about it. You have to have a way around this for corporate deployment. So home users will use it. So Rufus will set that flag for you automatically when you install. All of that. There'll just be super easy ways around it.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll hope.
Yeah.
But yeah, any other questions you wanna flag, Will?
What's the right Linux, Mikey?
Kali, all the way, 100%.
Which is Arch based, right?
No, it's Debian based.
Debian? Oh, okay.
Hell yeah.
That's wrong.
Yeah.
Nobody likes Debian.
I love me some Kali. It's so
look.
slick.
I run Debian on my server at home.
It's just command line though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the true Linux. Getting rid of all the GUIs. That's the next step. It's the third boot.
Dude, I'm a graphics guy. I want to be able to point and click and all that stuff.
Wait, so how much of your time is spent in Linux versus Windows?
I mean, 85% Windows, 15% Linux.
Oh.
And it's just really because I don't spend the time ramping up my tooling on the Linux side. So when I'm teaching, I'm usually teaching through like Zoom or doing online streaming. I just haven't spent the time to get Zoom set up, to get the audio stuff all set up.
What if you did?
If I did, I would spend more time in Linux.
Join the Dual Boot Diaries.
Do you think
That'd be triple boot time. What do I think? What
is what do you call it? Is the Kali is Kali set up for day-to-day use? Typically, Debian lags a little bit behind and is challenging on modernish hardware.
So Kali is obviously a security distro. It has all those wonderful, lovely security tools and kernel modifications built in. But I've installed LibreOffice, VLC. I've made it kind of a very cool daily driver. So when I'm in it, I don't feel awkward or weird. I just don't use it as a daily driver. I don't go in there very often. But there's nothing stopping me really, other than I'm more familiar with Windows than I am with Linux because I've spent all of my life in Windows.
What movie had the most realistic depiction of ethical hacking that you've ever seen, and why is it Swordfish?
We don't talk about that movie, and it's not The Matrix.
Okay,
and it's not Swordfish. And it's not The Net with that lady with the bus.
You can type /pizza.
It's very easy. And actually, it's a great question.
That lady from the bus? You mean Sandra Bullock from
Speed? That's the one. We don't do
Good
that.
God, man.
The lady in the bus.
The bus lady.
So the best depiction of hacking that's most realistic, I assume you mean?
Is Mr. Robot.
Mr. Robot, the first season of Mr. Robot.
Oh, really?
The first season.
Okay. I guess I'm right here.
And yeah, you're right. and the reason it's the most realistic depiction is they had great technical consultants. For the first season of Mr. Robot, the technical consultants were the people that run DEF CON.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so they're like, no, do it this way or do that. Or here's an approach.
The first season especially is a lot about asking questions, social engineering stuff too.
Social engineering and subtle hacking, like sneaking a Raspberry Pi into a network closet and connecting back out from it.
Yeah.
All of those things, I almost all of it is very realistic.
What about Sneakers? He's in the trunk. He hears the sound of the bridge. There's social engineering. They have Ned. What's his name? Ned Ryerson from Groundhog Day. He's the bad guy. He's the stooge. He's not really the bad guy.
It's like you called him by name, Ned Ryerson.
Yeah, Ned the head, needle nose Ned. Ned Ryerson. Groundhog Day rules.
I mean, some of those movies are good, but Mr. Robot Season 1.
Mr. Robot
Best
Season
ever.
1. Okay.
All right. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining the Dual Boot Diaries once again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
always a pleasure
our
to see you,
first multiple guest.
Yay!
There had to be one. And
We'll let you and Wendell duke it out.
He's the final boss.
He's our only other guest, I think, isn't he?
Aw.
Who else do
We had
have?
the pop people on.
Oh,
we
that's
had
right.
Sapphire Ed.
yeah,
and Narav framework.
Oh yeah, sure.
But
enough.
certainly the coolest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Best beard.
Yeah, it has an okay beard.
Yeah, it has a pretty good beard. Yeah. Yours got a little curl on the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, let's wrap it up here. Is there anything you want to pimp today, Mikey? Anything? Where can people follow you? Check out your hot content.
I don't have an affiliate link. I don't have merch. I don't have any kind of weird social stuff that you should follow. What I'll do is, if you enjoyed this, try to educate somebody that in your life or surrounding you, someone senior, hopefully, or elder. Elder folks are getting abused like heck by social engineers. A lot of fraud, a lot of extortion, a lot of sex scams, believe it or not, or romance scams. It's disgusting that old folks are being victimized so heavily by social engineers. So if you like this and you thought, oh, I could do something for Mikey, educate somebody to be careful about that, to not be easily a victim to that kind of fraud and extortion and engineering. That would make me happy.
Every time you get one of those texts, you're like, who on earth falls for this? There's
Somebody
a bunch of
does.
people that are falling for it.
So,
That's the reason why they do it.
statistically, they're older,
Yeah.
they're more vulnerable, and they lose massive amounts of money.
Yeah.
So please help somebody out.
Yes, definitely. I love that answer, but it's the wrong one.
Oh.
Because the
Yeah.
right answer is go over to PCWorld's YouTube channel
Oh.
and TikTok,
I
where you do
forgot.
security videos.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
With that whole diatribe.
Mikey is the #1 security guy on OnlyFans. Adam's gonna have to bleep that too,
Yeah.
isn't he?
Oh man. Okay.
I gotta go.
Yeah, we gotta go.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, check back next week for your fix of Linux talk. Do you listen to the podcast? I'm gonna out you
I
here.
do.
Wow.
Okay. What do you wish we talked more about on our journey?
I'll be honest. This is not rehearsed. They don't know what I'm going to say. I didn't know they were going to ask this question. I wish that you would do one episode where you took a core Linux concept and demonstrated or lived it. I think a core Linux concept is that Linux runs great on old hardware. I wish you took one episode and took the oldest, crappiest computer you could find in the building and installed Linux on it to see that experience.
You know, I was about to e-waste a laptop from 2015 that I found in my office the other day
Exactly.
Why
Just
would I
like
do
that.
Yeah.
because I have a small house.
Because I think that it's going to be positive. I think you'd actually not have a bad experience. But you guys to be fair, they use very cutting edge, very new, very slick machines because that works and they have access.
Well, we just take the crap off the shelf in the office.
Yeah.
Your crap
But we've
is
got
not
worse crap. Yeah.
I know, our crap is, it's
Yeah.
nice crap.
Good point. And to be fair, we have gotten that feedback before. Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah. And so I do want to try that. Like I've got that old ThinkPad over there. I've got even older systems too. Yeah. I'd be curious to see what's actually
You know
usable.
what? We should go to the flea market.
Ooh,
Because
road trip.
see, you're here the wrong week. If you were here last weekend, we could have taken you to the electronics flea, or weekend before last. We could have taken you to the electronics flea market, which is where everybody goes to sell the stuff that they stole from their office like 10 years ago.
Some of those laptops were like very inflated.
The laptop vendor that was there this week was expensive. The one that's usually there was much more reasonable price.
Okay.
That woman had a tent above the laptops. That was a nice stall.
Wow.
The one who just puts them out on a tarp, that's where you get your big savings. But it's like old like Fleet ThinkPads and Dell XPSs and old Macs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Maybe think about that. In fact, I saw a stack of really old Dells in your break room.
Actually, there's even older ones that I know if I can
Yeah.
show you too. So, okay, yeah, maybe you help me pick a laptop.
I would love
Yeah.
that.
Okay, all right, we'll do that. Thank you, Mikey. Thank you, Will, for hanging out.
Hey,
asking
always a pleasure.
questions. Always a good time.
I'm here to
Yeah.
give you stuff to beep.
Yeah, we're still
Yeah.
dual booting all
Yeah.
over the place. Anyway, thanks
30
everybody.
episodes. Thanks for watching.
30
everybody.
episodes.
Listening.
Wow. We're old enough to buy beer.
No,
great.
it's only been 30 weeks, man,
Oh,
not
okay.
30 years.
Okay, dang it. All right. Anyway, we're out of here. Bye.